TNA Wrestling crosses the line again with another action-packed episode of TNA Impact, and a lot went on again this week. It seems to be every week now, so much stuff goes on. This week on TNA, we had Cora Jade from NXT. She was on the show. We'll get into all of that. But first things first, remember to download the TNA Plus app, get subscribed, and you can watch TNA episodes weekly of Impact. If you get the World Heavyweight Championship package or the Championship package, that will include pay-per-views as well. Now, TNA this week kicked off with the most wanted man, Nic Nemeth, the man who lost the World Heavyweight Championship to Joe Hendry at Genesis, and he come out, and was actually saying that, hey, look, he lost to the better man, and it weren't a great night for him, and but when you get knocked down, he said the best thing to do is get up. And he said in 2025 what he plans to do, and as he was going to tell us what he was going to do, out comes Hyan Nemeth, who was like, my brother is upset and he got robbed and everything else, and he sort of said, you can win the championship and you can also go for the tag team championships, which was then interrupted by First Class, AJ, Francis, and KC Navarro. And it was like AJ was reintroducing himself, obviously to Nic Nemeth, who knows. And, at the end of the day, what they went on to do was set up a tag team match for next week's Impact. Was it this week's Impact? Yes, in the main event. Course. Looking at notes, I put next week with a arrow pointing up to something else. The main event this week was Nic Nemeth and Hyan Nemeth versus First Class. Now, the interesting thing I keep saying with this is that Hyan Nemeth is always the one that comes out and interrupts his brother or stops his brother. It feels to me like Hyan is, I suppose, jealous of Nic's success, but at the same time, he's kind of like holding him back now, and it feels like he wants to make sure that he's always with his brother and that Nic's not getting the limelight, so to speak, on Impact. Well, I could be wrong on that, but I really do feel at some point during this run that Nic and Hyan may well end up feuding together against one another. I think Hyan will probably turn on him at some point. That's my prediction anyway, but Santino Marella did indeed make that match for later on in the evening. Backstage, Gia Miller was with Ariana Grace, and she didn't speak for too long before the new standard of the Knockouts division, Tessa Blanchard, showed up, and she pretty much punked out Ariana Grace and Gia Miller. She's, she told that Gia she wasn't needed, and she took the microphone, and Tessa Blanchard answers to nobody. Well, she done. She did beat Jordynne Grace. That is for sure. What's next for Tessa Blanchard, though? At the moment, we have no clue. What's next on TNA, though, was Cora Jade from NXT, and she was taking on Hyan. Now, Cora Jade had a bit of a to-do with Xia Brookside as well backstage, and she ended up nearly getting into a fight with Xia Brookside because she was looking for Masha Slamovich, and Xia went up to her and welcomed her to TNA, and she didn't take that. Cora didn't take that too kindly, so to speak. But this was just really, this match with Hyan was just really an enhancement. Cora Jade makes quick work of Hyan, hits Jaded. And then that was, basically it, to be quite honest with you. But it wasn't finished there. No, she kept beating Hyan down. And that prompted Xia Brookside to come out and make the save. And as she then, Cora goes to leave the ring. She's done. She pretends to run away. And as Xia Brookside tends to Hyan, Cora Jade comes back in and starts beating Xia Brookside down, which, after she's standing tall and admiring her work, Masha Slamovich runs to the ring, and this time Cora Jade runs away. She ran away big time. She actually stopped briefly because Masha was wearing a cowboy hat, and that went off on the entranceway, and Cora Jade ended up putting it on and kind of blowing her a kiss from the top of the ramp, which she probably didn't really want. Anyway, backstage right now with Wes Lee, Tariq, and Tyson. And there's obviously going on about the Rascals. They're not finished with the Rascals, but he did mention that his goal is going to be an NXT champion, Wes Lee, and Tariq and Tyson are after tag team gold. And he said it all starts tonight when he takes out the resident magician that is Ace Austin. Obviously, Wes Lee and Ace Austin in action tonight on Impact, was in action tonight on Impact, which we will get to very, very shortly. Now, Santino Marella was backstage. Ash and Heather by Allegiance was backstage with George the Iceman as well, who served Santino Marella papers from their lawyers. And he complained that, he complains about the title match at Genesis, which they lost to Spitfire, and he's demanding justice. And Santino says to him, relax, and announces that next week on Impact, there's going to be a battle royal, and the winner of that battle royal will earn a Knockouts title shot. And he did say that they were both in it, and so were these. And in walks Jody Luna, and jeez, it's been a long week, guys. Danny Luna and Jody fret, and they trash talk and get under the skin of the elegances whilst being announced, as we say. High stakes battle royal next week on TNA. Any reason to get the TNA Plus app, guys? There it is. Now, next was Brian Myers of the System, and he was with every member of the System, going against Leon Slater. What an athlete Leon is. He's brilliant. I can never talk highly enough about Leon Slater. And this week, hey, look, Leon was his magical self this week. He was absolutely brilliant. There was really started off competitively before the break. And then, as it come back from the break, it carried on. Leon was diving around. There was one point during this match where he went for a dive. Brian Myers was like, time out. And Leon done that big dive over the corner post like he always does. It was absolutely sensational. But eventually, the System were always distracting Leon. And every time there was momentum, it kept getting stuck because of that distraction from the System. And it's just annoying that every time Leon was gaining this momentum, he was getting cut short by the System. And eventually the numbers game did indeed get up. It was quite a long match, to be honest with you, on this. But as he was Fitzwell, he was flying everywhere at each and every member of the System, but he did get caught out in the end, and Brian Myers did end up beating Leon Slater, which is really a shame. We love Leon. We obviously want him to win success or be successful in TNA and win gold. I still stand by my prediction: X-Division Champion in 2025 at some point, Leon Slater. And it's not over yet with the System and Leon Slater. More on that very, very shortly. Now, if you go back to last week, 23 was revealed. It was Steph DeLanda who announced her divorce from her then husband and introduced A, the fact that she's the digital media champion, and B, her new boyfriend, who's actually her real boyfriend, Mace Warner. And if you remember rightly, they took out Sami Callihan last week. Now, fast forward a week, him and Steph are walking out the back, and out of nowhere, here comes Mr. Death Machine, Sami Callihan. He was attacking everything that walked. And at that point, it went to a break. And we said that when it come back for a break, we will hear from Mr. Callihan himself. But before we get to that bit, go back to Leon Slater and the System, like I said. Now, initially, Leon is being mocked by Frankie Kazarian backstage for losing the match. The System do come in and do the same thing. But the System's arch nemesis from 2024, the Hardy Boys, come up and defend Slater. And the System then starts taunting them all. He calls Slater the English Hardy Boy. And Matt Hardy insists that Slater has star written all over him. And next week, the GOATs will stand next to him. And the System say they will see them there. So next week on Impact, the System go in a 6-man tag with Matt and Jeff and Leon Slater. Talk about a dream pairing for next week on Impact. It's getting better. We got a Battle Royal next week on Impact. We got the Hardys teaming with Leon Slater next week on Impact. What more do we want or need next week? Anyway, we were due to hear from Sami Callihan, but absolutely not. We see him emerge from the production area next to the entranceway, still brawling with Mence Warner. And he beats down him, he throws him, he grabs a baseball bat and he heads to the ring with it. And he blasts Warner with a steel chair as well. And he hoists the baseball bat up. And as he does that, Steph DeLander is on the ring apron. As Callihan reaches to deal with Steph, Warner... actually, he throws the belt. She throws the belt, sorry. And Warner blasts Callihan with it. DeLander holds up Callahan's head. And Warner charges at him and blasts him in the knee with a strike. And then he taunts Callihan some more. And then makes out with Steph DeLander. So Callihan and Warner are certainly on a collision course. I mean, is that going to be in like a Monsters Ball type match? I don't know what that's going to be. But I'm pretty sure they're going to have some form of, crazy match. I don't think a normal one-on-one match would really be right for Mace Warner and Mence Warner and Sami Callihan. So we'll see where that goes. But I've got a feeling it's going to be some crazy ass match that they have. Now, next we get to see the return of Mustafa Ali to action. Now, although he confirmed last week that he re-signed with TNA confirmed that he re-signed with TNA last night as well, and he was going against Laredo Kid. What a match this was. I mean, this was absolutely incredible. Two very quick pace, big move machines, both of these two, and they were brilliant. Ali was doing a bit of submissions as well in this to try and slow down Kid, but they are both so quick. There were some crazy moves in this. Honestly, go and check this out on TNA Plus. If you haven't done already, these two were brilliant. Laredo Kid, really, I don't know, like if he's underrated or what the deal is between these, with Laredo Kid, but he's got so much talent, and it was so. This match was just so good. These two complemented each other well. Similar styles, actually, with these two, which kind of helps. Sometimes a contrast of styles doesn't always work. But when you've got two very similar styles together, they really work. And these two absolutely did. The 450 from Ali gets the job done this week. And he carries on pretty much where he left off after losing the X-Division Championship to Mike Bailey with the victory. But when we get back from the commercial break, Ali is all smiles backstage with his security, and he talks about his successful start in his campaign and how it's going to continue when Mike Santana walks in and asks if we have a problem. Ali's security moves in, so Ali said, you know what, it's okay. And Santana said they can handle this like men after he disrespected Ali at Genesis. And Ali said, look, I've just had a grueling match, But he knows a supporter of the campaign who might be interested. And then he walked off. So I don't know what's going on. But Ali and Santana, if they ever lock horns in TNA, that is going to be something really special. They seemingly are on a collision course at some point. But when they do, it's going to be great. Now, before the next match and before we get into it, there was a bit backstage where Macklin was warning Eric Young about Josh Alexander. He said that you can't trust him. You've got to be very careful when you go against Sinner and Saint, the Northern Armory Travis Williams and Judas Icarus. But anyway, from there, we go to this tag team match. And we was wondering, remember I said last week, could EY and Josh team up together? And the answer to that, in a well, a lot of ways, was yes, initially. But eventually, the match spilled out. Alexander was getting probably the brunt of the punishment from the Northern Armory, and then he did make that much needed tag after a while of being beaten on by the Northern Armory. Eric Young comes in and clotheslines and knocks out Josh Alexander, turning on Josh and aligning himself with the Northern Armory. Eric Young did do this bit during it when he kind of done this slow horror movie style sort of evil turn and flashes that maniacal smile that he has into the crowd, and Northern Armory are kicking the crap out of Josh Alexander. And then he does do a real sick looking power driver, jumping power driver to finish off Alexander. Now, I don't know if that was their way of writing Josh Alexander out of TNA for good. We know that he's exploring free agency. He did quit after the I Quit match. But we don't know. And Eric Young tried his best, remember, to try and keep him in TNA, only to do this week. What's going to happen with Macklin? What does Macklin feel about this? Is Eric Young aligned to the Northern Armory? We do not know, and we're going to have to wait to find out. But when we did return back, it was Wes Lee and Ace Austin. Jesus. I mean, this is, we just said how good the match with Laredo Kid and Mustafa Ali was. This was amazing. There was dueling NXT, TNA chants. The match sort of slowed and quickened and slowed and quickened, and it was just had everything. It went to the outside. There was this dive that Ace Austin done, and he nearly landed on his head after he'd done this turning dive. We're glad that he didn't, obviously. It was brilliant. Eventually, though, Wes Lee does win. There was a distraction on it from the Tariq and Tyson, which allowed Wes Lee to pick up the victory. And then all three of them started attacking Ace Austin, which led to the Rascals coming out and making the save. We get told, though, that next week, Joe Hendry's in concert, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Joe Hendry in concert next week. He was in a blue room. He said he talks about, he's unsure who will emerge as his first title challenger. But in the meantime, we're getting him in concert like next week, and it'll be entertainment like no other. It's true. He's one of the only guys that can deliver entertainment that way. Obviously, could he be in the Royal Rumble? Now, there's more on this. We hear Nic Nemeth could be in the Royal Rumble as well. Be interesting because he was Dolph Ziggler in the WWE. So how does that going to work? Who from NXT will make an impression? Because there's going to be some NXT names in the Royal Rumble. Could Masha Slamovich be in it? We know Jordan Grace is expected, and we know that she signed a multiple-year agreement with the WWE. That has been confirmed by Nick Khan himself. But we'll find out who, if anyone, debuts at the Royal Rumble or who comes into the Royal Rumble next week. But it is main event time. The Nemeths and Age against First Class, AJ Francis and Casey Navarro. Really good main event this, but I'm still not quite sure about Ryan and Nick. Ryan does get the brunt of the punishment in this. He does finally make the tag to Nick, who comes in with a bundle of energy, hits a load of offense. He hits a load of elbow drops as well, and then on Navarro, which brings AJ Francis in. Ryan also hits the ring to take care of Francis, while Navarro really surprised Nic Nemeth with a roll-up that come very, very close to getting the free. He then hits him with another super kick, which got very close again to the free count. And finally, he then hits the famous Navarro. And just as Nic Nemeth hits the danger zone, Ryan Nemeth tags himself in, picks up the victory, which Nic didn't like. He was in disbelief. He wasn't happy. But he did eventually celebrate with his brother at the end of the show. So very, very, interesting times with them two. I still am certain that Ryan's going to turn on Nic in the end and they're going to have a feud at some point. But that was another action-packed episode on TNA. Now, coming up next week on TNA Impact, we, of course, the Knockouts #1 Contenders Battle Royal. Leon Slater and the Hardy Boys take on the Systems Moose, JDC and Eddie Edwards. Mike Santana goes one-on-one with Matt Cardona next week, folks. Matt Cardona back in TNA, could also be back at the Royal Rumble this coming Sunday. Who knows? And of course, the concert of Joe Hendry. But don't forget, everybody, to watch TNA Wrestling. Get the TNA Plus app, download, subscribe, and for $9.99, you can watch all episodes of Impact. You can watch all the old episodes of Impact as well. If you can't do that, stream it, DAZN. In America, Access TV, Sports Zone in Canada. Get on it, because you are missing out on some great stuff that TNA are doing. Make sure you watch it. Make sure you watch our review next week as well of what will be another action-packed episode of TNA. And until next week, everybody, cross that line and stay safe.